the world of sports writers, if you said Feinstein, you knew immediately it was John Feinstein, a generational giant with the likes of Mike Lupica, Mitch Albom, and Bob Ryan. He wrote one of the greatest golf books ever, A Good Walk Spoiled, also Tales from Q School, Inside Golf's fifth major. John worked with us at Golf Channel on this show some 15 years ago. All the qualities that he brought to his writing, he brought to life from. He was fierce, opinionated, interesting, funny, fun to be around. Clearly knew a good story and knew how to tell one. You listened when he spoke, slowed down to read, and we will sorely miss him. The sports world lost a friend today. Sports world lost a voice today. He left us with a body of work that will stand for a long time. Our condolences to his family. May his memory be a blessing. John Feinstein was 69.
John Feinstein has joined us, and John is a distinguished writer.
Mm-hmm.
How many books, John?
This book, Tom, is my 50th.
Whoa.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
John, the new book, The Ancient Eight. This is the new one. What's it about?
Right. It is about Ivy League football, Tom. And you might say, well, why would anybody outside of the Ivy League itself be interested in Ivy League football? And you know, I always like to write about people, athletes, coaches who are not rich and famous, who are not Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan or whomever you might want to name, Steph Curry, because I come to believe through my 112 years as a reporter that you don't have to be rich and famous to have a story to tell. And the Ivy League athletes, football players in the case of this book, are bright. They have interesting backstories. They were willing to share them with me. I did 82 interviews with players for this book. And I can honestly say not one of them was a bad interview. They were all smart kids with stories to tell and that they were willing to share.
Well, let me say this. It confirmed for me to another level what I've always believed, as you mentioned, about Tiger, that he's the greatest player of all time. I know there are people who will argue Nicklaus because Nicklaus still has more majors, 18 to 15. What I've said for years is that in his dominant period, 97 to 08, he did things that nobody's ever done and probably nobody ever will do.
Somebody big just died. Legendary sports journalist John Feinstein is dead at 69 years old. And my friend Mike North is here to deliver his eulogy. Mike, how are you, my friend? Long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. The deaths have not been coming like they were a few months back, Joe. We keep track of this. Somebody big just died. But, you know, sometimes they go in streaks and sometimes for good reason, thank God, that they don't come at all for a lot of people. But, you know, I was surprised to hear about John Feinstein. We'll talk about him in a minute. But, you know, a part of living, you know, get busy living or get busy dying. Well, you can do both. You get busy living, then you die, and then where do you go? Cumberland Chapels, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. 8300 West Lawrence Avenue, the Lupos, the Martinos, family owned and operated. There's the phone number, 8300 West Lawrence Avenue, right out there in Norridge, Illinois, serving families for decades. It takes up the whole block there on Lawrence. There's some of the testimonials of late wonderful people, neighborhood people that you know, all are being grieved. You go into their wonderful place there. They have plenty of chapels, plenty of room. They have people that will wait on you, take care of you, show you the proper way, not try to take you for a ride. Make it as simple as it can. It's 8300 West Lawrence Avenue because it's a tough period and you want somebody to help you along the way. So CumberlandChapels.com. Hopefully you won't be needing them anytime soon, but yeah, I'm sure everybody here in the Chicagoland area, I know I have, Joe has, everybody I know has been to Cumberland Chapels. It's one of the most popular. It's made Sebastian Maniscalco's comedy act. It's one of the most popular funeral homes in the country. Let alone somebody big just died. You kidding me? And then we go right to the restaurant. That's it. And it is the beautiful Pennyville Station, 112 Main Street in Park Ridge, Illinois. A beautiful place, outstanding. Look at it's colorful. That's what I liked about it. Plenty of seating space, good couples place, just fun, whether you're going into with your buddies or hanging out with some friends, whatever it is, good food. I love it there. Tino Antonacci's there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. And of course, Tony Antonacci is his son that owns it. Beautiful place. Tino's there during the day, Tony at night. Just wonderful people. Keep this baby rolling along with Cumberland Chapels, 112 Main Street in Park Ridge. Make sure you check them out. You might run into me there because I like to go
That's
over.
right.
I'm not ready to go to Cumberland Chapels anytime soon, but I like Pennyville Station, ladies and gentlemen. Now, John Feinstein. I don't know how to say this. I don't know if you're even expecting a call from me on John Feinstein, but being in the same business and knowing and watching him for decades, I thought about it when I found out about it. I go, this guy's huge. And I'm not a lover of journalists. I'm not. I think a lot of them, they go to school, they get their degree, and they think their opinions matter, but if you give an opinion back at them, they don't like it. I found that out at an early time.
Sure.
They've been used to pounding Cub players, Sox players, this and that. Then here comes me, and I'm pounding them. Saying, you're caretakers for the company, or you're this, you're that. So I know that a lot of them can't take criticism. And I know that nobody, well, we know this, journalism's at an all-time low in this country. Nobody believes anything. And I went back to that way back when. I know journalists that look you right in the eye and lie to you. But John Feinstein wasn't one of them. John Feinstein was a guy that was on all sorts of programs. But when I think of John Feinstein, I think of a writer. When you think of a guy like Mike Wilbon or Tony Kornheiser, who started out as writers and started out with John Feinstein, they at one point disdained the electronic media back in the day.
Right.
They found out they could make money off it. But kids today, Generation X, for instance, don't look at Mike and Tony Kornheiser as columnists or journalists. They don't. They can say they were, but they were journalists and columnists in another life before they found out, because of guys like, well, a lot of us, that you could make money off the electronic end of it. And they've done a great job, no doubt about it. But
And
guys, go ahead.
Feinstein made a lot of money off the electronic side of it too, from like the digital books.
He did. That's but he had to write them. Okay.
He had to do a lot of work.
He had to do a lot of work. This is what I respect about him. He said it right. To me, like when I started, there were no computers, so you had to know your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To me, John Feinstein always knew his stuff. But the thing I liked about him, first of all, I don't think I've read in my whole life 5 full books from back to front. Okay? He's written 45 to 50 books, written them.
Yep.
I haven't read 45 to 50 books in my whole life. I'm a magazine guy. I'm a guy that will read. I read 4 papers a day. I'm always now on the internet. I'm always reading. But books, I'm not a book guy. I don't have the patience for a book guy, let alone to write them. And to write them on subjects that aren't, like he said, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Walter Payton. I could write books on them, or I could write books on the Bears, on the Sox. And I wrote one book. It took me 6 months. I had Steve Silverman write it with me. It was a pain in the ass. It was a pain in the ass. And then you have to go out and promote it. You don't make that much money off it. But Feinstein never, to me, even though he did TV, I looked at him as an author.
100%.
As a journalist, where I don't look at some of the other guys now. I don't look at Bayless as a columnist anymore. I don't look as Wilbon as a columnist. I don't look at I guess Tellender stays there. Most journalists are boring.
Right.
This guy wasn't boring. But what he was is he was a hustler because he worked for the Golf Channel for a long time. He did the sports reporters. He was on ESPN, but he networked. He had a lot of friends, but here's what I heard. Mike Krzyzewski said, hey, he was a polarizing figure. And if you're mediocre, you're not going to be polarizing. And I know that for a fact. There are people that didn't like him. There are people that I talked to him 4 or 5 times on the radio, and I said to myself, if there was a guy that was going to debate me on sports, and I had maybe a shot at not winning the debate, it might be John Feinstein. Because he did the stuff that I would never want to do. I mean, he wrote these books.
Dude, everything, man. I mean, he the range from the PGA Tour to Ivy League football to Bobby Knight.
Yep.
To minor league baseball players. I mean, this is a guy that just strived on relationships, Mike.
Yeah, he wrote The Last Dance, behind the scenes at the Final Four, Next Man Up. Let me tell you a story with Red Auerbach, he was very good friends with Red Auerbach. A Good Walk Spoiled. Days and Nights on the PGA Tour. I heard about all these books because I'd see them on TV promoting them. I never went and read once. I never read Season on the Brink. I saw excerpts of it, but I never read it. To me, see, journalism is killed, like, for instance, the newspapers. Okay?
Sure.
They used to be thick, like the Bible. Now they're thin, like the pamphlets you hang on your doorknob. Okay?
Yeah.
But he wasn't one of them. And I guess people said a lot of people were intimidated by him and stuff like that because he was so knowledgeable. But this guy, he wrote for young readers. Foul Trouble, 2013. Backfield Boys, a football mystery in black and white. The Prodigy. He wrote the Benchwarmer series, a series of books on something.
Yeah, so he didn't stick just to nonfiction. He did fiction
that's what
work.
impressed me. Wrote on Army Navy's game. He wrote about Bobby Knight. I did disagree with him on Tiger Woods. Okay, he had a phenomenal run of 11 years. But that's not how you judge a guy. Because Jack Nicklaus won a Masters at 46 and won more majors.
Oh,
so,
it's interesting that I had that clip about him talking about Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
He was as critical as anybody on Tiger Woods, John Feinstein. He was very critical of Tiger, and I was very surprised that he still thinks that he's the best of all time.
Unless that was an old clip. Okay, but I don't know. But
it was after his last Masters win, which was probably what?
Probably 2015.
Yeah,
I think.
So that clip's about 10 years old.
Yeah, and since then he's had other things happen to him that but here's another thing. John never looked healthy. And never. Was a little overweight. You'd see him on TV. He wasn't a matinee idol type of guy. He was more of a curmudgeonly type of guy, but he was a guy that, I had a guy tell me, I had some people tell me, once you think you know everything. I go, well, I don't think I know everything. He goes, well, you always argue about something. Well, I'm not going to argue if I think you're right, but if I think you're wrong, I'm going to debate you. That was Feinstein. And I don't think writers that are mainstream writers were used to his brashness. I think the guy was between being an author, between being a talk show host, working on the Golf Channel, being interviewed on a lot of shows, writing in the newspaper. He was a multi-talented guy. He got in trouble with Coach K because they were buddies, but then that got him access to Knight, and then he wrote Season on the Brink, and that didn't turn out good. Knight thought he got hung out to dry, and they didn't talk for decades, and they were and of course they never settled because Bobby Knight never settled many arguments. He just let things lie the way they were. But that's the way it is when you're in that business. And I got to tell you, he was born. We'll go over his particulars. July 28th, 1955. March 13th, 2025. Sudden heart attack at his brother's house. They were out just hanging out, you know. Sports writer, author, sports commentator, and columnist. I mean, he worked his ass off. He was married twice, married Claire Gibbons. He got divorced, and then he married Christina Mock in 2010. He had 3 children, 2 with one lady, 1 with the other. I forget which was which, but I don't want to be quoted on that. He also had some of his books turned into movies. A Season on the Brink was used by ESPN with Brian Dennehy when they were making some of those movies in the role of Bobby Knight. Caddy for Life, the Bruce Edwards story about a guy that dies who gets Lou Gehrig's disease. He did work for the Golf Channel. He also was a commentator for United States Naval Football. He was on the Tony Kornheiser show, the Jim Rome show, the Sports Junkies. I mean,
unbelievable.
See, I was fortunate where I was more encapsulated. I didn't have to do a bunch of different things because the money was good enough back then, so I could stay in my hometown and do. But this guy, he kept himself going because he never had anything solid for a long period of time. But everybody knew who he was. I was impressed by his accomplishments. You're right, 45, 50 books.
Yeah, 50 books is insane.
I mean, I wrote a note to B the other day. I'll be back at 2:30, and I had to think that through. Okay, you know what I mean?
No editor for you, Mike.
I mean, my God, I'll be back. This guy's up, like this, doing all that. So, Sporting News he wrote for, the Washington Post, Golf Digest, and then all those books. So I wanted to give him his just due. And I liked him on the Sports Reporters, and I didn't even see that listed, but he used to go on with Lupica, some of those guys back in the day, Sanders, all those guys. And I thought he was good back then. So I want to wish the family of John Feinstein, to drop dead in front of your family, in front of your brother.
Terrible.
Can't be a beautiful thing. And but he was an accomplished guy, and I wanted to give him his just due. I interviewed him 3-4 times. He was always out promoting, and sports radio was perfect for him. He also worked on Sirius, did a show with Coach K. So God bless John, and somebody big just died. There wasn't a whole lot on him. It comes and goes, but everybody in the community, I guess, is in shock because there was no signs of this at all.
Just kept busy his whole career, man.
That's right.
The day he died.
And you know who kept busy their whole career, Joe? Slick Watts. Now, I sent Joe. Slick Watts was one of these guys. Slick passed away. He's a legend, a Seattle legend. Not one of the players that played for a long period of time. He died at 73 years of age. He was a legend there. He brought much needed energy. He worked as a phys ed instructor after his days with the Seattle Supersonics. He was a pillar of the community, known for his involvement. One year, he led the NBA in 76, I believe it was, in assists and steals. But he was when he always had the headband on, which was hilarious because when we were kids, we wore the headbands to keep the hair out of our eyes. But if Joe goes back to the picture, we'll see that he was one of the first baldies right there. And he wore that, and you knew when he was on the court. Flashy type of guy. So we want to wish nothing but the best for Slick Watts' family. And Slick, you made your mark, my friend. And you played like 9 years in the NBA. You only played 4 or 5 years with Seattle, but you made an impact on the community and stayed there after you were done playing. So a couple rough ones there as far as we're concerned. But you know what? When somebody big just died, John Feinstein, it will get back to him. Somebody will see to say, tell the Feinstein family.
Yep, he made the cut.
He made the cut, brought to you by Cumberland Chapels and Pennyville Station. And to Slick Watts, our honorable mention. We thank everybody for joining us. On behalf of Joe Mandel, I'm Mike North. Somebody big just died.